Alright, hello, and welcome to the Game Design Q&A, and thank you very much for coming. We're excited to have you all here, and we cannot wait to get into sharing some cool things. Before we begin, we just want to quickly run over how this Q&A will work, so you know what to expect. Each sub-department within GD will get an opportunity to explain what they currently have in the works, as well as their goals, ideas, and potential plans for the future. Each sub-department will answer any question they receive from the question form that went out with the Q&A announcement. After each sub-department has had the chance to speak, we'll then go into answering any questions asked in the questions form during the Q&A. We have set up a similar question form to the one that was sent out previously. The link is in the channel description and will be sent in the chat as well, hopefully soon. And you are free to send in any questions you may have that you want to ask the GD leads for the duration of the Q&A. Please avoid asking questions in the voice text chat. This is so that we can keep track of questions easier and that they can be asked efficiently. We encourage you to share any opinions on what is being said in the chat. Now I'll hand over to Sunnya, who will introduce the GD leads and talk a bit more about the Q&A.
Yes, hi. So a recording of this Q&A will be uploaded and released on our YouTube channel. This will allow those of you who could not make it, well, anyone here has made it, but those who could not make it to hear what was being said, and for those of you here to rewatch. There's no ETA on when this video will be released on the channel, but it will be in the next week. Now, moving on to the GD leadership that's here today. In attendance, we have xAutumnn, the assistant to head of GD and lead Inquisitor, who will be covering the Inquisitor-run community engagement events, Magiventologist/events team section, as well as the lore section. We have Salmandingo, the lead of the arena team, who will be covering challenges and tournaments. We have NSgaming, lead of both the Seer and Unspeakable teams. He will be covering both official roleplay and world content. And lastly, we have Droobledore, the headmaster, game director, and head of game design, who will be covering the systems team on behalf of our lead curse breaker. This includes leveling, mobs, and more. As a reminder, please keep in mind that everything said today at this Q&A is not a definitive plan and is subject to change. There's also no ETA on when any of the things mentioned will be completed and released. This Q&A is being held to update the player base on our ideas and hear your thoughts and feedback on what is being currently envisioned. Your feedback is very important to us, so please share your thoughts in the chat and submit any questions through the forum. So with that being said, we'll move on to the content of this actual Q&A. So Autumn with the Magiventologist team.
Yes, so I'm going to be reading for the events team for Lauren. I'm just going to talk about what we're currently working on and just also some ideas and goals as well as some potential plans. So first off, I'm going to start with what the team is currently working on. So right now the team is working on a Butterbrew event. So I know a lot of us were a little saddened that we didn't get to see this return last year, but this year it will be returning. The team is currently developing quests and other new gameplay for this event, which will be released in very early September. This puts us back on a more typical timeline, and as long as there are no bumps in the road in terms of scheduling, Halloween and Winter Waltz should be released much earlier than they were in 2020. So that is something that you can kind of look forward to. Now, in terms of ideas and goals, as well as potential plans, we've kind of been working on a few points in terms of our gameplay. So first I want to kind of talk about just the skill gameplay and the difficulty. So we've kind of heard some feedback that some people are looking for more challenging event gameplay and that the current event gameplay is too challenging. So it's kind of like a mixed feedback type of thing. But for this next event, which is Butterbrew, we're going to be trying a new concept in which when players accept a quest, they will choose a story mode or challenge mode section. So the quest experience for this will be identical except for the skill gameplay aspects. So for example, while those who choose a story mode may complete a very simple parkour or a simple skill task, those who chose a challenge mode will have a significantly harder skilled task. So the incentive to choose the more difficult option will be a much higher event token reward or just a better reward in general. So it's not like completing the more skilled gameplay will be the same reward. It will be a higher reward if you choose something that is more difficult. Next, I'm going to kind of talk about some of the gameplay pain points that we've noticed in our feedback. So we want our skill gameplay to always be more fun than something frustrating to complete. So we were happy with how the Poseidon's Treasure parkour in the summer event, if you've tried that out, we're happy with how that turned out, and we want to reuse concepts like this in the future. So if you didn't know, the way that this parkour worked was that you would cast spells towards certain areas, and it would run sort of like an animation on blocks. An animation basically is just like a timed appearance in when blocks show up. So yeah, this is something that we'd kind of like to continue working towards in the future. We're also applying this to other types of gameplay. So for example, we want to avoid elytra boosts in the future due to inconsistency as a result of like client-side lag. And we also have some ideas about how to make mazes less painful to go through. So that's kind of what we're working towards slowly but surely. So just keep looking out for that. And also if you have any ideas for how we can kind of like keep addressing this, like feel free to send some suggestions on the forums. Next I'm going to quickly talk about gameplay progression in events. So we're currently examining the best way to progress through events because we want returning to the event to be enjoyable instead of just kind of like annoying. So we've been trying to add more day-to-day variation in side quests. And we're also taking a look at how we want mini games such as parkours, droppers, etc. We're just kind of working at those types of activities in terms of the repeatable stuff, so it isn't like the same stuff like over and over again. I will say that this is something that's very difficult for the team to kind of like work on because we want to be able to create something that is efficient for us, so we aren't like burning ourselves out, but something that's still interesting for you guys. So again, I strongly encourage anyone with ideas to kind of leave their thoughts on the forums. Next, I'm just going to talk about XP in events. So currently no events since the creation of the events team have rewarded XP to the players. For the future, we want to make main and side quests reward experience. While we hope to have good enough rewards to kind of incentivize playing events without an XP gain, we also feel that having a regular stream of new event quests available every other month or so would kind of help improve the leveling process for all the players. Since these quests don't have the same level restrictions as world quests, there will be a formula that rewards experience based on a player's level instead of a one-size-fits-all type thing. So don't worry if you're quote-unquote using up that experience boost on a lower level because the events team is working on new content at all times and the next one will be right around the corner. So kind of look out for that for the future. We definitely feel that like adding XP will help the leveling, and it's definitely something good to add for the events team. Lastly, I'm going to talk about magical theming for events. So if some of you guys noticed in recent events, we haven't always done like strictly like magical theme type stuff. Like we've done like some other cool themed things. And we've definitely received your feedback that you guys enjoyed events that are more tied into the wizarding world, such as Winter Waltz, Pride and Diagon, Butterbrew, etc. are preferred rather than like the other types of themed events like this past Valentine's. So it's part of our aim to make events still have a magical feel to them, though we will still make occasional exceptions to this because, for example, we have no intention of discontinuing our traditions such as May the 4th. So that's kind of what we have for events. Again, like if you have any suggestions to that, you're free to like bring anything up for bring any of your ideas up in the forums. So that should be it for the events team. We did not receive any player questions for this.
Okay, cool. So thank you, Autumn. We're going to be going over the arena team now. Okay, so what is currently in the works? We have four things. We have the arena training sessions for flying. We have new challenge ideas, new season releases, and the new arena display. And okay, so for our ideas, goals, or potential plans, the first point is to make dueling challenges and tournaments more fair for non-graduates. So we recognize that there is a huge issue right now with dueling challenges and tournaments, where lower years usually wait for like 20 minutes for their turn, and as soon as they get into the arena, they're taken out with like one spell without a chance to fight back, since they were matched against a graduate, let's say. So this is something that we're paying very close attention to, and we will be working with the other teams in GD to ensure that we bring a system that can help kind of narrow the gap between graduates and non-graduates in terms of the gear difference. So this will allow the lower years to still put up a fight with those of higher years, but obviously the spell tree and the unlocked spells based on your year will still vary, and that will most likely stay to encourage people to push for higher levels. So that's the first point. For the next point, we want to allow the players to practice flying outside of challenges and tournaments. So we're currently working on creating a new way for our players to practice the arena flying courses outside of flying challenges and tournaments, because we understand that players who are new to flying often find themselves struggling to get past the qualifiers due to their lack of experience with our maps. And for that, we decided to start working on the system to help these new players gain more experience. As of right now, we haven't got all the details ironed out, like the frequency or the duration of these training sessions. But what we do know so far is that we want to host live sessions similar to challenges, where the students would be able to pick up a broom and fly whatever arena map or maps that they would like as many times as they want for a specific duration. So let's say 45 minutes, for example. They would also be able to leave the session whenever they want to. And whenever they want to leave, they can claim some arena tokens for participating. So with that, if there's any map that is used in challenges or tournaments that you don't feel very comfortable or confident with, this will allow you to practice it as much as you want. And or if you're just trying to get better at flying in general and see what maps we have, you will be given access to all our maps, and yeah, so you can fly with your friends on any map you'd like. For the next point, we are coming up with new challenge ideas to make Arena more versatile. So we're currently trying to work on the new challenge ideas, which are either variants of already existing challenges, like dueling and flying, or completely new challenge ideas that aren't dueling or racing based whatsoever. So an example of this would be doing a different kind of dueling. For example, Hunger Games or King of the Hill, which we already have. And for flying, it could be, for example, a different kind of a relay race. But for completely unique challenge ideas, those are more difficult for us to implement. But we want to focus more on those to make sure that our challenges are more versatile and to allow players who might not be that good at dueling and flying to still be able to compete and perhaps find a new place for their skills to shine. As of right now, we have no ETA as to when any of these challenge ideas will be implemented, but we will keep you updated. And for our last point, we will be working on the Arena Discord. So the Arena Discord will be an official Discord that will be managed by myself and the Arena team. So we will send all Arena-related announcements and content there, and those can include tournament winners, season releases, map changes, changes to rewards, or just general Arena changes. It might also include, it will also include many channels for those who are passionate about Arena to chat. And okay, on to the questions that were submitted. We have one for Arena. And the question says, quote, will there be other types of tournaments, such as Wizards PE/parkour? I know there's the regular Wizards PE and the magical one. Maybe the magical one could be used for a tournament. So that was the question that was submitted. And for our answer, as of right now, we definitely recognize the need for a wider variety in tournaments, and we are working on some ideas behind the scenes. What we want to try doing is to test a new concept only in challenges for a while to kind of get a feel of what it is like and if it's something that the community enjoys. And then after that, we can move on to the next stage where we start to integrate the concept into a tournament style. But in terms of the Wizards PE/parkour idea that was mentioned in the question, we have thought of it before, but we ultimately decided not to go for it at this time, since it doesn't really fit the style and the vision that the Arena team is comfortable with. So, with that in mind, you are still always free to suggest new challenge or tournament ideas for us because we love getting feedback and ideas. So please don't hesitate. And I want to conclude my section by saying, apply for Arena Squire. we have the apps open and we would love to see new people on the team. So yeah, don't hesitate, go for it. And thank you.
All right, thank you, Sal. Next, we're going to talk about the Inquisitorial Squad or the Inquisitor Team. Again, like the other ones, we're just going to talk about what we're currently working on, and then as well as some ideas, goals, and potential plans. So currently, we're working on an August community engagement that will potentially be themed to a musical festival type activity. We've also been hosting our community engagements or CEs for the month of July. So that's kind of what we've been working on in terms of the player-facing types of activities. We also work on some staff TBAs each month, but this is just behind-the-scenes projects. But if you're interested in what the team is working on, we do staff TBAs for the staff team. Next, I'm going to talk about some ideas and goals for the team. So, over the past few months since the Inquisitors moved from the community management department into game design, the team has been mainly working towards improving the quality and consistency of all of the content that we're creating. So, we've been working towards creating more interesting and versatile activities for you guys, as well as just trying our best to make sure that everything runs smoothly from both the tech perspective and also from the hosting perspective. So we really wanted to make both the in-game VC and the hosting as clean as possible so the community engagements can be enjoyed without things being confusing or unorganized. So this is, I guess, one of our goals that we kind of want to continue working towards. So keep looking out for that. Next that we've been kind of working on is just messing around with different types of activities, as well as figuring out how much as a team we can handle to create each month. since we all have other responsibilities to attend to. But for now, what you guys should consistently see is us aiming to have a CE or a community engagement hosted 5 times during the last week of each month. So generally, a CE has 2 activities. It may have 3 or 4, but generally 2. Where one activity will be more of a hangout or chill type of activity, whereas the other activity is more mini game based. We think that's been working out pretty well, and it isn't too overwhelming for the team to continuously do. So just keep looking out for that. We've also been working towards growing the team. So the High Inquisitors, Layla, and I have been looking through applications and giving feedback and thoughts, as well as hosting interviews for potential hires. So we're aiming to get around a team of 10 people at this moment in time. We're currently a team of 5, not including me. So if you enjoy the community engagements, just a promotion here, if you enjoy the community engagements and would potentially like to join the staff team, we encourage you to apply for Inquisitor. In terms of other potential plans outside of what the team is working on now, we currently don't have anything specific in mind that we're working towards, mainly because we've just been focused on the things that I mentioned earlier. However, there has been some discussion on the team about other activities outside CEs. So we've talked about doing other Inquisitor hosted activities outside our normal community engagement platform in the on-demand or class servers, such as some cool activities posted maybe on the website and other stuff in game, although there hasn't really been much more than talk about this. Next, I'm going to move on to the player submitted questions that we received beforehand. So this question says, aside from seasonal community engagements and holidays, what other times would inquire for a scheduled community engagement? So typically like I said, we do a CE every single month during the last week. Also, if you guys notice, we've also held voice chat community engagements for Staff Appreciation Day, where the players were able to watch a live stream on Discord. We would like to continue doing this for future Staff Appreciation Days if people enjoyed it. But in terms of other community engagements, besides the one that we've been doing the 5 times at the end of each month, we don't really have anything in particular plans. Again, like I said, we've talked about doing some other stuff outside community engagements, but it's just more so brainstorming. And we just want to focus on quality and consistency of the CEs for the past few months since moving Inquisitor into GD. So that should be it for Inquisitor. Next, I'm going to move on to the lore team. I'm going to speak for Mac and Jackie. So again, I'm going to first talk about what we're currently working on. So currently, the largest ongoing project that the lore team is working on is creating lore for all of the villages and towns across the world. So whilst this is something that we've been working on for quite a while now, it's always going to be something that we're going to continue creating and fine-tuning. We also recently completed projects designing various businesses in the world. We did this to add even more flavor to the towns that we do have. Already existing shops on the world will now have a hint of more backstory to it to hopefully add to more of the immersiveness on the world. The team also spent some time designing new magical schools. We kind of did this to further the reach of the world and also give the team a chance to complete freedom with their creations and writing. The schools are original creations by the team, and we're really excited by what they created. The team created schools all around the world, including Australia, Egypt, and even Antarctica. So that's something that you can kind of continue looking out for. We're really excited to kind of show you guys. We're also about to commence a project with the Unspeakable team to add more discoverability to the world. Through this, there will be many ways for the players to start learning about Potterworld's lore by just interacting with the world. So that's something that you can kind of keep an eye out. In terms of ideas or goals for the lore team, We're currently looking at working closely with the other GD teams to kind of develop more ways to expand on the story of Potterworld. While we can't really say much about this now, you guys can just know that a lot is in the works to kind of just like make this happen. And we hope that this project will kind of add in an extra layer of depth to the Potterworld story and lore. So continue looking out for that. We also received a player submitted question beforehand, so I'm just going to read this off now. When it comes to the lore of Potterworld, I can't recall if there's a place, but for those who are new, want to catch up or get into the lore of Potterworld, would it be possible to create an in-game book or maybe an archive of some sort on the forums to read the lore and learn more about it? I'd be really interested in reading it from the beginning. So, kind of just first want to say that it's really cool that that players kind of want to learn more about Potterworld's lore. And we do currently have a team that is working on making this information accessible to all of the players. So hopefully we will be getting this information to all of you guys as soon as possible. But in the interim, if you guys haven't seen or heard of this, we do have the library at the Hogsworth School. The library is filled with a bunch of books about all of the magical creatures that we have on Potterworld. So that's a really great place to kind of start discovering Potterworld lore. Not only are the books informative, they also have a great testament to just kind of the writing skill of the lore team that we've assembled. So hopefully, like, this is just a good interim thing that you can do until we do get that information for lore released to you guys. And that should be it for the lore team.
I'll start with the Seer team before moving into the Unspeakables. So what's currently in the works? The answer is that we're currently wrapping up Chapter 2 in a really awesome one-of-a-kind event. It's going to be something unlike anything anyone has seen before in terms of live event, gameplay event, or anything else. It's not going to be a Battle of Potterworld, but it will be something cool. I can't really talk more about that because spoilers for all sorts of story stuff. But I do want to say that we have sort of always had a plan from the start, and a lot of elements from that plan are finally coming to fruition after almost a year in development. So what are some ideas, goals, or potential plans? We're continuing to look at adding new locations to our roleplay catalog. So in case you don't know, that's where you can go into the roleplay hub and you can go to certain locations, sort of quick access them from there, and be able to roleplay in those locations. So if you have any suggestions for those, you can always send them to us or submit them on the forums. And then I can confirm that in the future, we will be getting a new Dark Follower base, which has been, I know, long awaited. We can't share more details at this time, but it's definitely going to be super duper cool. And then in terms of player submitted questions and answers, are there any plans for a new allegiance or club? The answer is not at this time. The sort of longer answer to that is those take years to develop between multiple teams because of course that's not just us, that's store managers and everyone else. For example, the vampire package was first thought up in 2017, I want to say, and of course we didn't really see it until 2020. So there's not really plans at this point to expand on that story. What I will say is we will look at possibly including Spew more in the official roleplay story moving forward. All right, then Unspeakable team. There's a lot, so bear with me. Okay, so what is currently in the works? As revealed in the Daily Diviner, we're currently working on bringing the Revenant dungeon back in the form of a gauntlet. This is We know this is a fan favorite pastime for many of you, and we're super excited to bring it up to our new standards with new secrets to find, upgraded bosses, and so much more. Dungeons are something that's coming a little bit later, but we'll talk more about that in a bit. In terms of this gauntlet, this will be a max level graduate experience that we're super excited to bring back, and that is in development now. All right, moving on. We're currently continuing our work for the next few fast travel quests to make it easier to get around our world. By the time the current batch is complete, we will have added about a dozen fast travel quests on top of allowing you to access older fast travel usability from previous quests, for example, the train to London and other things like that. So that should be a way for you guys to be able to get around the world faster, since we know that was sort of an issue when Revelius first launched, and we hope that adding these quests has made it a little easier for you guys. Next up, we're looking into adding more Harry Potter-centric quests, like the Mirror of Desire Challenge or the Chamber of Mysteries quests. As these are completed, we won't be announcing them to the public, but will exist on the world for you to be able to find. So those will be super exciting and much more sort of Harry Potter focused for those quests. Moving on, we're revamping our world mini games to make them more interesting, as well as adding some cool new rewards to them. You'll find out more about these plans soon enough, but there's going to be some really cool new fun modes to our world mini games that should make them much more enjoyable. Really cool new things that we're doing with mazes and all that stuff. Now, as I'm sure many of you have realized by now, we took a step back earlier this year from releasing graduate content to examine our game as a whole and make sure that non-graduates have a great experience as well. This is why we've moved to smaller releases for the time being, and projects have included the aforementioned fast travel quests, as well as a few other quality of life changes. We want to ensure that if you're a newer player, you still have a smooth experience, and that's why we're also going back, and later this year we'll be revamping all of the first year quests to ensure a fun experience that also allows newer players to get used to all the systems that we have in the server. That will start development later this year. We're always looking to add more full quests to our map. We have a few under development right now, including in areas of the map that have no content at the moment. However, that's not all. Some of these quests will involve larger storylines that will take place over multiple years and multiple locations, like Relics of the Past. Lastly, I want to recognize that many of you have been asking for daily quests or repeatable content to help you level up. We hear you loud and clear. That's why for the past several months, the Unspeakable team has been hard at work developing what we call reputation. These repeatable pieces of content will take place in towns all over the world, and you'll be able to gain reputation for that particular town. We'll be revealing more of how it works as we get closer to its release, but for now, understand that it's currently under development, and there will be some cool rewards for you to claim if you choose to complete these reputation tasks. All right, what are some ideas, goals, and/or potential plans? As we get into fall of this year, we think the game experience is in a much better place than it was when Revelius launched. Post-launch, we've added over 30 quests, revamped some existing quests, allowed you to re-enter almost all of the quest areas, and so much more. Moving forward, we want to try to balance our releases so non-graduates are receiving about the same amount of content that our graduates are for each of those larger quest releases. Due to the above, we're potentially looking to return to our large releases, especially with the release of the new Castle Village that was revealed several weeks ago in the Daily Diviner. This will be a very unique release, as not only will we be introducing some new quests, but we'll also be introducing some specific world interactions to enhance the story around the village. As mentioned previously, we're reintroducing Revenant as our first gauntlet. Where it's more, think of gauntlets like our old style of dungeons, where it's more boss fighting and waves of monsters. Gauntlets will specifically be tailored to high-level gameplay, meaning gauntlets will be for graduates and max-level players. Dungeons, on the other hand, is something that we're looking into right now. We're not quite ready to reveal all the details, but it'll be much more group-based and will be located in your own world, meaning it gives us a lot more control over things that can happen. Walls can be blown up, and we can do some really awesome and interactive cutscenes and really bring that experience up to an 11. We'll share more info about Dungeons as we get closer to its first release. And And as always, we're continuing to fill up the world with new stories and new quests for you to be able to experience, specifically in areas that uh, don't have much content right now. And then the last thing I'll mention here is that there's been a small idea, it larger storylines in the far future, that is sort of way out and something we are discussing right now, um, and possibly looking into. And then the last thing is we sort of want to make sure that we are filling up our world right now before we start expanding to Northern Europe and Britain. Um, all right, so player submitted questions and answers. Will there be any more quests and or side activities? 100% yes. This is our basically entire job will be adding new quests and side activities and other pieces of content regularly. We have a lot in development right now, so as we sort of move those things closer and closer to release, you will start seeing much more content. Why are some spots in the world that are decorated but not used for anything? So as I said earlier, we want to eventually fill out the world in a meaningful way. This means you can stumble upon hidden interactions or a secret quest line and really add to the exploration aspect of our server. Um, as I've said since the beginning, Revelius was much more of a framework than an update, and we're just continuing to build with that framework, and we'll eventually be adding content to almost every area on the world. The next question is, what is the purpose of quest level requirement gaps in higher up quests? So this is not intentional. Our aim is to add at least one quest per level soon enough, especially for levels 71 through 75, as we understand that there's really not content for those levels, and that makes it very, very hard to level up there. The next question is, will a Soul Crux Locket Cave be added into the world? My answer is possibly, and that's about as much as I can say at this time. The last question we have is, what process does the Unspeakable team use when they're developing a quest or a new implementation? So you can find more on our YouTube channel. There's a video called Behind the Scenes of Quest that goes over it quite nicely, where Lauren actually talks about quest development. But essentially, we start concepting ideas, or what I call the blue sky phase, where we come up with the general story or gameplay. Everything at this stage is in flux and changes rapidly. This is where we think about where something will fit into our world and the reason behind it. Are we adding it because it would be fun, because it's needed for the health of the game, or is it an idea that a player had? All these sort of questions get answered during that time. From there, we move to a more focused story design outlines. What exactly is happening in the quest? What stories do we want to tell? What characters are involved? What gameplay is involved? Out of all the steps, this is sort of my personal favorite. I'm an avid storyteller, and especially as Unspeakable lead, I want to strive to have our quests have a stronger sense of story than ever before. From there, we move into our story design documents. This is where we flesh out how the quest will flow. We write the dialogues for the characters and basically write every detail of the quest before we turn it into the real thing in game. Lastly, we then use the Potterworld tech that we have created specifically for the server, and we design it in game. This is sort of a lot of work to do, and it is fairly complicated, but it is super duper fun and super rewarding. Of course, we then also go to send it to testing and everything before release, but that's usually our usual cycle for developing all that stuff. The last thing I will say is apply for Unspeakable, please. We love having more people with content. Yeah. So then that's it from me.
All right. I think it's my turn. Hello, everyone. I'm going to be speaking for systems here. So what is currently in the works now? A few of these things are kind of cross-related to some of the things that like Sal talked about and Noah and stuff. So I think there's going to be some things that you're going to hear repeated, but in terms of the systems, this is kind of like what we're going to work on. The things I'm going to talk about, I'm going to separate into two sections. One's going to be short term, and one's going to be long term. So I'm going to go to the short term stuff first. So look to these things as things that are going to be coming out soon. And then I'll go into the stuff that we're working on kind of in the back end for the long term. So first thing is loadouts. So we're currently working on a new system called loadouts. This kind of ties into several of the different departments, including academics, arena, PvP, even just things that are out in the world like dueling halls. In a nutshell, they're a preset selection of stats. So it includes like health, damage, cooldown reduction, range, AoE size, all those kind of things that you can select from when you're dueling other players. We're trying to address some of those issues where, we have a level discrepancy between like level 20, level 80. It's like obviously their stats are not going to be the same. So the fight is going to be pretty unfair overall. With the loadouts, both players, regardless of level, would choose one of the loadouts and be able to use that in tournaments, challenges, dueling classes, 1v1s, academics, anything, and then there'll be more on a even level. So we're hoping a system like this will allow players, if they choose to, use the loadout, be more on the same playing field, and then compete more fairly. Of course, we're not going to get rid of the PvE situations where you might want to use gear. Maybe you have two players that want to compare their gear, loadouts and stuff like that. That's totally fine. We're going to keep all those in there. This is just another option if there is a discrepancy between levels and gear. Another thing is gear variety. So we're currently working on a small patch that rebalances many late game epic and legendary gear pieces. We heard feedback from you guys that, currently the meta is, I'm just going to use one for example, Charms or Jinx or Transfigure or whatever, and there's not enough variation. So we want to add variation to the end game pieces so that there's something to strive for and you can build your sets differently. And I think that's really important, and that's something that we're striving to do. Currently, we're going to go in there and actually hand pick and hand tweak some of the stats. We use a generic kind of like, not a generic, but we have a general gear building system that kind of assigns stats kind of globally across the board. We're going to take that as a baseline and then kind of tweak things by hand to make them more unique. So look forward to more pieces of gear being thrown into the system and more unique pieces for different fighting styles. All right, so experience and leveling. We are currently working on a redesign of the formulas we use to generate experience rewards for quests, all of our content. As a whole, the TLDR is that we're making it easier to level across the board, just kind of like holistically. We're looking at kind of data in the back end and looking at like what is the average time to level from, level X to level X, and we're trying to adjust it so the curves are a little bit more lenient. So look forward to that. All right. So spell acquisition. A few of you that have been with us for a long time will remember like back in the day, like maybe, Potterworld version 1.0 beta, like we used ACs as the main form of currency when like obtaining spells. So you would level up, you'd get some ACs, you would like spend the ACs and buy spells. We heard a lot of feedback that people really miss that system, and I kind of agree. So we're making some adjustments to how players will attain spells. Currently, some of the holes that I see in the system and that we all see is that every time you level up, you like get randomly assigned a new spell, and you might not even, if you're not paying attention, not even notice. Oh, I leveled up and I earned a new spell that I don't recognize. It doesn't really teach you how to use the spell and all that stuff. So we find that to be kind of confusing for new players. So I think we're going to try to move back to a little bit of an older method. So when you level, you will earn some sort of like a skill point or something like that. And then you yourself can go to a spell teacher, like we're going to bring those back, and choose to assign that spell point to whatever you want. You're like, oh, do I want like arrow, or do I want like, some other spell? You can choose for yourself. So you actually very intentionally make that choice. And that's something that we all heard that like the community really loves, is like, I really feel like I'm building the wizard that I am meant to be by choosing the order that I get the spells. Now, originally, the reason why we decided to kind of give people spells in a specific order was because we knew that quests were coming And we would have hated to lock people out, being like, oh, you didn't actually get like Avamora, you didn't get Revelius. Well, then you can't do the spell yet because, you know, you just didn't choose it. So we're introducing the new idea of spell quests. So in the initial phase of spell quests, we're taking all of what I call the key spells. So Avamora, Rebellious, Ascendo, Apparate, Lumosolemn, all those kind of spells, and applying a spell quest to them. Meaning, when you do the spell quest, you just get the spell right away. You don't need to wait for a certain level to get it. We are going to separate it out into years. So I'm just going to hypothetically say there's 3 key spells per year. Let's just pretend. By the time when you reach year 1, you can pick up the quests for those 3 key spells right away. Same thing with year 2. Once you hit year 2, you can pick up those quests right away and get those spells right off the bat. So we're going to separate out the 2 systems in this manner. So key spells and then the rest of the spells via skill points or whatever we call it. As we get closer to this, we'll put out some announcements and some forum posts and stuff about it, just so you guys can read up on how that changes all the specifics to the spell teachers and whatnot then. All right. Okay, so those are more in terms of the short term of what we're working on. The next thing is the long term. So these are kind of like overall sweeping changes that we kind of want to make in the long term that I think will make the server better. So I know that we've had professions on the server for a while, and personally, like on our side, we're not super satisfied with all of the systems that we've tried with professions. So we're putting kind of our minds to the grinding stone and trying to figure out what can we do about professions to make it feel more Harry Potter, make it feel more like it makes sense. So in terms of professions, we've come up with a new system that we're actually calling subjects, and we're trying to lean more into the Harry Potter like it's like a note that we've heard from the community is like we want to hear more, like you guys want to see more of that kind of stuff. So there's a few things about our current gear, and I'll explain how this is tied in with the professions and subjects right now. Gear that I don't like. Right now, you can say, okay, I'm a wizard. I get a whole bunch of gear, you know, I hit level 80 and all that stuff. When I put the gear on, I'm like super powerful. That's all great. However, the second you take that gear off, you feel weak again. And that's something that we really want to fix. It doesn't make sense, at least in our eyes, that, oh yeah, if I take off, you know, this necklace and I take off this hat and take off these boots, now all of a sudden I'm pretty much just as weak or as I felt when I first joined the server. And we definitely don't want to do that. We want to shift a little bit of that thought process. So this is where subjects is coming into play. Now imagine subjects as a different subject for all of the things that, you know, Harry Potter learned in the books. So there's one for charms, there's one for DADA, there's ones for, you know, transfig and all that stuff. Now leveling up each of these individual subjects as you would, you know, if you were a student at, you know, a magical school, will net you stat increases. So let's just take the very obvious one, for example. Let's just take DADA. DADA will be all about combat. So as you like, you know, defeat mobs, defeat bosses, you know, do that type of content, you will actually level up your damage. So the more you practice one thing, the more you level up in that one thing. It makes sense. Some other things that we were thinking about of introducing as well is the idea of maybe a subject called divination, where it controls a new type of stat called luck. So the longer you basically play and you increase your luck, the more chance that loot and other stuff will drop. So let's just pretend there's like a certain like ring that you're trying to farm for. Typically, if you were to join on the server that day, your luck would be 0 because you haven't worked on your luck. And so the ring's chance, say the ring's chance is like 1 in 10 to drop. You have 0 luck, so it doesn't affect it. As you play, as you level up your luck, maybe your divination subject or something like that, your ability to your intuition and all that stuff and your luck goes up. And so now instead of a 1 in 10 chance to drop that ring, it's 5 in 10 chance. You know, it's a 50% chance. So we want to introduce this kind of stuff into the game to kind of reward players for playing on the server for a long period of time and leveling up their subjects. So the idea of professions is kind of shunted aside. It's not like a job that you do. It's more turned into a subject that you level up. So the ultimate goal here is that by just playing the game, by leveling to 80, you'll actually earn stats so that you will feel powerful even without gear. The subjects is kind of a supplement to this in that there will be increases in stats from subjects alone, but it's not like it's something that you have to. It'll be a smaller amount, but you can further buff your wizard by doing subjects. And then on top of that, there's the gear. So that way, if you take the gear off, you're not just like, oh, I feel naked now and I'm not powerful anymore. You will feel powerful even without the gear, and then the gear will make you more unique. We want to lean into gear being more about how you kind of tweak the knobs of your character to, oh, I want to be a little bit more focused on DAD. I want to be a little bit more focused on cooking. I want to be a little bit more focused on, hexing or jinxing or whatever. And leave the stat stuff for leveling and subjects so that those things are the things that control your player. So hopefully that makes sense. Again, since this is more of a long-term thing, as we get closer, we'll release more updates about this specifically, and hopefully that will answer most of your questions there. But yeah, that's currently what we're having planned. One of the questions, I'm going to just delve into this, is when is gear going to be removed and talent points being added back? I wanted to talk about that because I feel like this answers that question kind of in a pseudo way. So there's no plan to remove gear. We think gear is cool in that it's a way for us to customize your wizard, your player. But we want to introduce subjects as a way to customize your player without gear. So it's like a little bit of a two things achieving the same goal. So I wanted to answer that question first. So moving into some of the other player submitted questions. Is Quabble Ball going to receive updates anytime this year? So yeah, the systems and dev teams are currently working on a number of updates to the Quabble Ball minigame to balance the game and make it a little bit more appealing, especially to newer players. Some of the things that we're looking to do are to make the defender position smoother, more enjoyable to play, a little bit more intuitive. We noticed that it's a little bit weird that you have to turn around, shoot I guess, the blocking spell into one of the hoops. Hopefully you don't miss, and then that way it blocks it. But just by doing that, you have to look away from the action, which doesn't really make sense to us. So we're adjusting that spell so it functions in a little bit more intuitive way. We're doing other things like this, looking at other types of positions based on the feedback that we've gotten from you guys to try to make that process a little bit better. Another question we have here. We, as players, have been told that the staff members understand the difficulty of leveling up. Will the system team work on adapting the current system to ease the intense experience? So I did speak to this a little bit. Yes, the systems team is currently in the process of rebalancing many of the formulas we use for judging how much experience is rewarded. So look to that for the changes will be coming soon. I just answered the question about gear. When are guilds and dungeons coming out? Also, how will guilds work? Will they have gameplay or just a group where you can join your friends? So dungeons, we're currently in the process of making the tech for that. So we don't want to promise a planned release date because, we've been burned by that kind of stuff before. So just give us the time. We're trying to make it the best that we can with our development team right now. Guilds, it's currently in the process of being worked on. There are some things in the back end because guilds is not just like a front end thing. There's like back end handling stuff that we want to do, but we don't want guilds to just purely be a bigger friend pool. We want guilds to have some sort of thing where you can level up within the guild, level your guild up so that there's maybe even like different achievements or different titles or something like that for your guild. So there's a little bit of prestige that comes with the guild. So those are things that we're currently working on there. But again, as it gets closer to release, we'll release more information about it. When attempting to balance the economy, what is the process used? So on the back end, we have a lot of like data, I guess, collecting tech pieces that we use to kind of look at where things are at. I think it's a little bit no secret that, with games like that are MMOs, the economy is very based on the players and it can grow stagnant. It's something that we're seeing right now. So with the introduction of reputation in the towns, things like that, we're trying to add other things that make meaningful spending of gold so that it will help you progress your player, progress the server, and also add more kind of like, I guess, gold sinks that are into the server, so it allows even the richest players to spend their money on something, so that it can get it moving back into the economy again. Another question here: are the systems team aware of the current state of the competitive dueling meta? Do they think Jinx requires balancing and or spell branches require buffs? Absolutely. I think I talked to this a bit. I mean, the whole point of the whole loadouts was to address this. So I feel like that question is kind of answered with the stuff that I've talked about prior. The higher the year you are, it seems academics, credits, mobs, etc. give considerably lower experience. Was this intentional to increase gameplay time, or was it to make leveling more challenging in general? As with any MMO, any game where you can level, there is a natural curve built in, and it is intentional. We are aware that it is quote unquote intense, so we're addressing that with lowering some of that time, balancing out, seeing where all the dead space in terms of leveling are, and trying to address those. So look for that. We're currently addressing those things right now. And yeah, those are the systems and dev related questions. So I think next we'll move into multi-department questions.
Yeah, so the first question is for events, and it is what is the quest reward for grads other than event tokens if we don't need XP?
Thank you. Okay, so for events, we will consider some gold rewards, but currently it's not the plan because events have already kind of affected the economy a lot recently. So as of right now, um, just XP, potentially gold rewards, but it's currently just not like we haven't really thought about that.
Another question for events. Are they going to be more exclusive or hard to get collectibles?
Yeah, so we don't want to lock exclusive rewards behind difficult skilled gameplay because we've honestly received a lot of feedback that players have been pretty unhappy with this in the past. Um, so for this question, most likely not. But we can look into having like exclusive rewards in the future. If you guys have other ideas on how to lock exclusive collectibles, besides like just locking it behind like super like difficult gameplay, feel free to just like send any ideas on the forums.
The next question is for Arena. How often would flying trainings be?
Okay, so as of right now, we are planning on hosting them around twice per month. Perhaps on the 2 Saturdays that don't have tournaments scheduled on them because we have 2 Saturdays that are occupied every month. So yeah, as of right now, around two, but that could change.
Question for systems. So Jay, will the profession aspect come back to the game? Since I'm new, I wasn't able to experience the professions and getting the cosmetics, etc.
Gotcha. Oh, so we do want to have other ways to earn those cosmetics, especially the ones in the original system. I think it'd be kind of wasted that we just had it as a one-time thing and never really brought it back. In terms of the way professions was experienced in the past, where it was like 3 jobs that you specifically did and that was all you did, I think it's going to change to what the subjects is. Subjects themselves will have, I guess, profession-esque like tasks related to them to level them up. And because of that, we don't feel like it's necessary to have the twofer, so like the one profession and subjects. It'll just be everything will be tied into subjects, and then perhaps we can throw the rewards in the subjects category.
So for Unspeakables, will the Chamber of Mysteries be revamped again right now since it's kind of bare and empty? I heard that before Revelius it had much more things in the chamber.
All right. I can talk a little bit about this one. So as of right now, there are no plans to revamp the chamber. We think it's in a really sort of fun spot. Obviously, it's a pretty big, hectic maze. Um, but we can possibly look into doing something like this after we've released a few more of those hidden Harry Potter quests onto the world.
Question for Inquisitors. Will there be surprise community engagements, as in past community engagements, just for fun?
So currently there aren't any plans to do surprise community engagements for past CEs, but we aren't opposed to reusing activities from past community engagements to give others the chance to kind of experience some of these activities that they may have not gotten to. Our main goal with these activities are to kind of make them enjoyable to repeat multiple times. So honestly, I see no issue in reusing ideas if people would like specific activities to make a comeback.
This question is for Lore, so you Autumn again. Before the Revelius update, I believe there were books about chemistry, about distillation, condensation, etc. Do they still exist or are they being renewed?
Yeah, so I believe these books were something that were received from classes. So in terms of the lore team, we currently aren't working on this specifically, but just to kind of like answer this a little bit, we definitely do want to continue building lore on different subjects, locations, characters, etc. on Potterworld. So I guess specifically on that, no, but you can look out for other stuff in the future.
This question is for Unspeakables. So what will dungeons rewards be, and will there be any point in doing them more than once?
So yeah. So we are gonna take a look at dungeon rewards, specifically for the dungeons that are not at max level. They will reward experience, so it gives you a reason to do them again. We also want to, I guess, on the flip side for gauntlets, we have already sort of said that those will give, there will be a higher chance to drop rare and legendary gear pieces from those things to give you a chance to get those gear pieces quicker. There may also be other rewards, other collectibles from those. Um, that's something that we're still figuring out as both are still in development.
I want to add on a little bit here. For dungeons specifically, the content is meant to be harder. So, like, whether we want to make it 5 or 10 man or whatever, where you pretty much need a group to do it. So, because of that difficulty level, we want to reward the players for I guess spending the time doing it, because especially the ones that are not like max level, if a player decides I want to use a dungeon to level up instead of like grinding mobs or doing the quests and stuff like that, that's totally viable, because you just need to get like 5 other people or whatever, 4 other people to do it with you, and then the reward will be much greater. Again, like Noah said, you can get gear pieces and stuff like that as well, so that it will reward you for your time. Most likely, as we kind of try this out and try the system out for endgame, we want the hardest type of content to be done with other people, because as a pseudo kind of MMO type of server, we believe that community is where, our heart is at. And so working with your friends and, maybe even strangers to like get the loot is probably where the challenge is going to be at. So the best gear, I think the aim is that the best gear would probably come from things like dungeons.
For the next question, is there an ETA for gauntlets?
So obviously can't give an ETA. What I can say is uh, the gauntlet, specifically on launch, we're gonna release the Revenant Gauntlet. Obviously, that's a little easier to develop than sort of a brand new experience, since we already have the build, the mobs, stuff like that. So it's sort of a little bit further in development than most people would probably think, but it's not where we want it to be at, and it's not quite done. Um, so it will be soon. That soon can be whatever you would like that to be. But I think I'll leave it there. Soon cannot be tomorrow. I wish it could be tomorrow, but you never know.
The next question is for roleplay. What is going to be in the roleplay shop?
All right. For the roleplay shop, that is specifically used for when we have live events. When we used to just give the collectible item out in the class, but of course the class was usually limited to 120 players, so we felt a little bad about that. So now what we do is we do we add that collectible to the shop following a live event, and we have it so that all players are able to get that collectible for about a week after the event. So next time there's a live event, there'll be an item in that shop. And I guess the other thing to add to that is you never know when those items may come in handy again.
This next question is for systems. So do loadouts include spell hotbars?
For what we're doing now for loadouts, the loadouts will just include the stats that are usually affected by gear. So, for example, gear affects stuff like health, damage, cooldowns, maybe cast time. So, as of right now, loadouts would just affect those types of stats, and it would kind of take the place of your gear stats, because we wanted to kind of create that sense of like balance in levels for like stuff like challenges and PvP. Um, so yeah, and as like Jay said, it's currently on our radar for spell hotbars, but not something that we have working right now.
The next question is for Unspeakables. Is last room incises going to be obtainable again?
Short answer, yes. Longer answer, we think we have a way to include it, but we want to make sure that it would be something that is sort of hard to obtain but still doable for a lot of people. So we're looking into sort of methods to make it challenging enough, but also making it fair so that it is something that most people will eventually be able to get if they put enough time in and they're willing to grind for it. Or they could do something else. We'll talk a little bit more about that as we get closer to that release.
And this question is for systems. Is there an ETA for loadouts, and what is it?
Autumn, do you want to answer this one?
Yeah. So currently there's no ETA, but we are in the testing and balancing stages of the loadouts we've created. So definitely look forward to it in the near future, but no specific ETA.
This question is for systems again. Will there be jobs you can get if you graduate a certain subject, for example, DAs or
That's a great question. It is something that we have entertained the thought of, like jobs in general. We want to make sure that the subjects themselves will feel like something you can work on because it's kind of like the in between. So right now it's like you have quests, then you have like your mini games, and then you have your classes and stuff like that. But we wanted to give players something to not farm on, but like be able to like spend a little bit of their time in between quests, and that's kind of what subjects became. So this kind of thing that you kind of side grind and stuff like that. In terms of the jobs, we were thinking of like how we would do this because something like jobs is almost very tied to something like the economy. How would you provide supply and demand with something like a job that is meaningful to a player to do? That doesn't make it feel like it's just another task board or something like that, where you quote unquote go to the tailor, and then tailor's like, oh, this is now your job, and all you have to do is like turn in 500 linen every day, and you're just like, ugh, another thing to grind. Like I said, jobs are something we're entertaining the idea of, but haven't figured out like what's the best way. So if you guys have any ideas of how you'd like to see jobs being made, in relation to the subject, please let us know. And you don't need to tie like a specific subject to a job. Like you could say the job, let's just use, for example, an Orlock is an Orlock. What could that mean? Like, do you catch bad guys? Do you like what is that? You know? So if you have ideas, please submit your ideas. We know we want to hear what you guys think.
this is also for systems. When using your spell points to obtain new spells, would you go to the teacher of that spell subject? For example, getting a charm spell from the professor in the charms classroom, or would there be one spell teacher in the trophy room like there was in the past?
Gotcha. I mean, this is something that was written down. I didn't really touch on it very heavily, but it's exactly what the question asked. It will be split up so that there are several spell teachers, yes, and they're more related to the, I guess, the category that they would be in, exactly what you said. So charms would teach the charms, and transfig would teach the transfig, and so on and so forth. We realize, oh, will that be kind of annoying to like have to go to all these different rooms? We'll make an easy way to transport between the two, or not the two, but like the several different spell teachers. But we think that it's more roleplay to have it that way. It feels like it's more in theme that you would go to that teacher to learn the spell. So I think it makes sense.
This is more of a general question. Will the GD team keep us more constantly updated on their plans for future and be more transparent overall, just so that we don't have to find out plans once a year in a Q&A and instead get a more regular update and ideas for us to give feedback on? I believe Noah's going to answer this.
Yep. So we all very much want to, and we want to make sure. For me specifically, for world content, we definitely want to be more open with communicating, especially with when we release updates. You'll see, and we've been doing this for a little bit, where we'll talk about some things that we have planned in future updates and all that stuff. So we'll be providing sort of more developmental updates on that side of things, at least from my end, for stuff like that. And then yes, we want to do Q&As more often, but we're also working on other ways to update the players. The main one being with the Daily Diviner team. For example, we announced the Revenant Gauntlet there and the Castle Village there. So that'll be sort of a way for you guys to learn about sort of upcoming updates and expansions and all sorts of other cool things to the world.
Also for systems, when are new spells coming in?
I can talk about this. So like I think Noah mentioned, we did talk about Lacerum coming back. In terms of new spells, we want to kind of try to minimize the amount of spells that players have, just so we aren't kind of like flooding your guys' spell inventory with a bunch of spells with very little or very specific use. But you can kind of look out for us potentially reworking the functionality of current spells to kind of make them more viable or appealing to use. So, for example, like we've looked into like reworking the functionality of some transfiguration spells just so we can make them more appealing to use for that type of magic. So kind of look out for that as well.
This question is for Unspeakables. So most grads I know are broke and in all severe need of gold. Will there be an upcoming solution to this, seeing that grad quests don't offer very much gold?
All right. So talking briefly about this, we have a sheet that sort of tracks how much gold we give out to players. Gold is something that's we sort of, along with the systems team, are taking sort of a larger look at. And that involves events as well with how they give out gold. So in case you don't know, we recently nerfed the amount of gold that was given for quests. The old amount used to be almost 200,000 gold. We now have lowered that to around 33,000 gold. So we we're looking into ways to give more gold. We want to be careful with that because the economy has become slightly more inflated than in the past. We're looking at around 1.5k is sort of almost equivalent to our baseline of what 100 gold was a few years ago. But as we add more content and add more quests, you will get gold from those things. So you'll be able to get more gold that way. And then along with, you know, mini games will give gold, and a lot of other things will give gold as well.
Okay. For Arena, could there ever be surprise practices?
Okay, so as of right now, and this question is referring to the training sessions for flying practice. But as of right now, we don't currently have any plans for making those practices available for surprise hosting. But I'm definitely down to bring it up with the rest of the team, and we can see if that's something that might be convenient for us, and if it's also something that the players would want. And also, I'd like to touch on two small things relating to questions that were asked before, but do relate to Arena. So, in terms of gold giving, we will make an announcement about this soon, but we've also buffed the gold that you get from challenges and tournaments. And most of the gold buffs were for second, third, fourth, and then fifth place and below. So first place rewards are still the same, but yeah, we're giving out more gold to encourage people to try to push for higher positions in our challenges. And yeah, so for the other question, in terms of keeping you guys in the loop about future plans, in terms of Arena, we will be doing that through the Arena Discord. So once that is released, which is hopefully very soon, we will be keeping you guys in the loop about everything that we have planned, and we'll definitely get your opinions on everything there. So yeah, thank you.
This last question is for systems. What is the difference between a gauntlet and a dungeon?
I can actually talk about this one if that
Go
works,
ahead.
Jay. All right.
Go ahead.
So this is something that is still in flux right now. But Gauntlet is basically just our name for the graduate version, and it'll be much more hack and slash based usually than the dungeons. Dungeons, I am gonna say we have one in development right now, story wise and concept wise, that is a little more has a lot more story to it, has some cutscenes, has and a lot more sort of puzzly aspects. It still has the sort of mobs and bosses and all that stuff, but it sort of has a little bit more story to it, is a little bit more focused on that side of things, um, and again has more puzzly content to it compared to gauntlets. And then of course gauntlets are only going to be for graduates, and dungeons will be for all players of all levels.
We actually do have two more questions. With surprise challenges, is it often limited to certain times? Would they be able to do something so it's more suitable, available to the players outside of the EST, PST, CST time zone? So, for you.
Yeah, I know. Okay, so as of right now, surprise challenges tend to happen whenever the arena masters and arena squires who like whenever they are available at the time, um, they usually host them. So in terms of making it so that players in different time zones are also able to attend these surprise challenges, um, we we currently have two arena masters which are on EST, and then one which is on an Australian time zone. So um, and I'm on EU. So we do have a variety, but we also have a very small number of arena masters. So we will be trying our best to have the surprise challenges be at different times, so that people of all time zones can attend. But at the same time, it's also sometimes difficult to do that because the majority of the arena team is on EST. But hopefully, with more people joining Arena and moving their way up into Arena Master, we'd be able to get a lot more of these surprise challenges on different times. So yeah.
This is more of a general question, but I believe Autumn will be answering. Can there be a gameplay Discord like the art Discord for feedback sharing and teasers, etc.?
So we don't have any plans to create a Discord for gameplay. Currently, we do our teasers through the main Discords, um, and all of the art and upcoming arena stuff through those Discords. So no, we don't really have any plans for that. But also, like, if you have suggestions for like how to do feedback or teasers, like, feel free to go onto the forums and suggest that.
Another question. Do we have an ETA for new roleplay content? It has been 3 months since the last DD article about anything official.
Okay, so I can talk a little bit about that. The answer is yes. To there will be more content coming. Can't give an ETA. We're looking into we know there's been a bit of a dry spell in terms of content for roleplay. We again, the content that we are making right now is sort of much more than what we've ever done before, so it has taken a little while. So, we do apologize for that. But we're looking into possibly some smaller things that will be coming soon. So not full events. The next full event, again, we're working on right now. But there will be some smaller things potentially. We're looking into all options right now. So.
All right. I'm really interested in Inquisitor, but I was wondering if the required level can be lowered down. I'm a third year, but I don't want to wait 50 levels till I can apply.
Yeah, so currently we know that the level is a little bit high right now, and we can look into lowering it a little bit. But usually for most staff positions, we want the applicants to be pretty experienced on the server and to have a good idea of like how everything works. So as of right now, we can't like lower it too much, but we can definitely look into lowering it a little bit.
All right. Well, that is all the questions that we have gotten. So we'd really like to thank everyone for coming. It's been quite long. Yeah, once again, just to reiterate, there aren't really any ETAs on anything that we've said, and nothing, well, mostly nothing is like set in stone. If you guys have any thoughts or feedback on any of the things mentioned, you're welcome to share on the forums. And you guys can just talk about it a bit there. So yeah, thank you very much, guys, for coming. I really enjoyed it. I hope you guys did too.